So SA 800, special considerations, audit of financial statements prepared in accordance with the special purpose framework. So here, what is a special purpose framework? They define. Special purpose framework is designed to meet financial information needs of specific users. Now, this special purpose framework may be a fair presentation or complaints. User will say so and so rule. You just have to prepare as it is, no deviation permitted. Suppose user gave a flexibility. So these are the rules. But if you think you can give me better information than these rules, you give me that better information. That's a fair presentation framework. If user permitted you to give additional disclosures, if user permitted you to deviate from the rules so that you can present much more fairly the required information I want, then that's a fair presentation framework. Now, the requirements of the applicable framework determine the form and content. Obviously, depending upon the user requirement, only the form and content of the financial statements is decided, right? Here, user will decide. The user will decide the form and content of the financial statements. And remember, by nature, special purpose financial statements are confidential in nature. They are not public documents. So in the audit report we are giving on special purpose financials, we will specifically mention basis for accounting. On what basis these special purpose financials are prepared. And we will also mention specifically about restriction on distribution and use. We clearly mentioned it is restricted for distribution. Suppose if distribution is not restricted, you clearly mention that this is not advisable for others. This is prepared for so and so entity purpose, so and so purpose, not advisable for others. Other reporting requirements, all that are reporting requirements, and we'll discuss later. How special purpose framework is different from general purpose? General purpose framework considers information needs of wide range of users. Getting it? Whereas here it is specific users. Now, when you're accepting an audit of special purpose financials, if at all financials are prepared using special purpose framework, when you're accepting an audit, check the following points. First and most important thing, a company called me, sir, we have prepared some balance sheet, P&L and all. Have you prepared? We prepared as per so and so rules given by so and so user, sir. What is the needs of the user? Check out. Is the company acknowledging that financials they are exactly preparing as per the user's need? Ask them. No, sir, we are slightly deviating because whatever requirements exactly if you prepare, no, sir, he will understand more about the company. He will not give us funding. Let us do something else. We will manipulate. So please cooperate us. The company is saying like this. Okay. So understand always when you are preparing special purpose financials, the ultimate important point is who is the end user. What is his requirement? That you should see. Who is appointing you is not important. What is appointing authority's requirement not important. Need of the user is the ultimately important for special purpose. If you think needs of the user is cannot be fulfilled, don't accept that. The first and foremost thing is needs of the user. Now check for preparing the special purpose financial statements whether acceptable organization standards are there. Suppose this is an NPO which has received a government grant and grant letter is there. They have given some terms and conditions on preparation and presentation of financial statements that demonstrate utilization of the grant. So grant letter says you need to prepare financial statements so that the following terms and conditions you have to follow for preparing the financials so that government which gave you grant will understand whether you utilize the grant properly or not. Prepare the information as per my requirement so that I can understand better. In your format, I cannot understand. Now, suppose that is actually called as regulatory requirement. That is actually called as regulatory. In this case, in the example, who is the regulatory for us here? Government, which provided us grant. In the grant letter, they have given conditions. Symptoms and all they have given. What we should include. How we should prepare special purpose financials. So if there is a regulatory is there, we should prepare special purpose financial statements as per regulatory requirement. Suppose government they gave grant. You prepare financial statements as per NPO related accounting standards. For NPOs, there are some accounting standards issued. So based on the standards, if you prepare, that's enough. Then in such a case, auditor has to see whether the standards that are established by an organization called NPO Accounting Standards Board, is it proper or not? Getting it? Suppose if NPO standards and government grant letter requirement, if there is a conflict, auditor has to ask the user himself, sir, there is a conflict between NPO standards and what you are requesting. Which one I should follow? User said, no, latter only you follow. So generally we follow the requirement of the specific user. Are you getting it? See, the standard essentially says special purpose financials are no doubt prepared as per the requirement of the user. User will not say exactly what rules to follow. User will say how he is going to use the financial statement. Why I want this balance sheet P&L? I'm asking you to prepare balance sheet P&L on cash basis. Fine, I agree. But why I want to use this cash basis? Understand the need of the user. Based on that, the method of preparing the financial statements followed by the entity based on the needs of the user, whether the financial reporting framework which they followed is acceptable, so that this framework, if we follow, will it give proper information to the user? Check out. Suppose already well-established standards were there to prepare these special purpose financials to meet the requirement of the user. Follow that only. Suppose well-established standards were there which are given by standard setting body, some standard setting body. Getting it? So well-established standards were there. And see, is it conflicting with the user requirement? If at all these well-established standards, if we follow, that will not give information as per the user. Then once again talk to the user, once again look at the grant letter and see which is correct. And ask the management to rectify the financials so that it is exactly giving the needs of the information needs of the user of the financials. Now naturally, the applicable financial reporting framework. Remember, applicable financial reporting framework here is user grant letter. Or if there is a standard setting body, that body may cover, encompass means cover, financial reporting provisions of a contract or source other than described in the preceding para. Sometimes in the contract itself, they will clearly mention exactly what information they want, exactly what points you should consider to prepare the balance sheet P&L. In that case, acceptability of the framework in these circumstances is determined by whether the framework exhibits attributes normally exhibited by acceptable framework. So whether user requirements are exactly considered or not. Attributes in the sense, for example, one of the attribute user is asking is, I want entire cash flow, balance sheet, everything to be prepared on cash basis. 2. Only for non-cash expenditure and all you can allow. Provisions and all don't allow. He said very clear, provisions and all I don't want. Ignore all the provisions. Put it as a note. Provisions, contingencies, all that, because they are not real expenditure, right? They are probable expenses. They are not real expenditure. So prepare balance sheet P&L without provisions. Prepare balance sheet P&L under cash basis of accounting. These are the attributes. These called as what? Attributes of the users. Now, which attribute is important? Which attribute is most important? It depends upon the circumstances of the engagement. It's a matter of professional judgment. Which attribute is most important so that the financials exhibits those attributes? Which is most important is decided by audit. For this, what I will generally do is, I have developed an example for this entire question because this is something very tough. That question itself is tough because people don't understand. What is an example of acceptable framework for special purpose scenario? An NPO receives a grant from government agency requiring NPO to prepare special purpose financials. Needs of the users. Primary users are government agency and NPO board of directors. The agency want to ensure funds are utilized properly, whereas board just track the expenses. The NPO could follow, they may follow standards established by NPO reporting body. For example, financial accounting standards by non-profit organization. These standards are designed to meet specific information needs of the users, which are generally acceptable. Government agency might have a specific reporting requirements outlined in the grant agreement. These requirements would supersede any other standard. If NPO standards and government agency conflict, the auditor would need to assess the nature of the conflict, determine how best he can resolve it. They might consult with both the parties to find a compromise or seek guidance from other relevant professionals. The grant agreement generally might specify some format or template. The format, even if it is not as per standards, would be acceptable for the purpose of this obligation. Getting it? Because it's a special purpose financial statement. Understand, for special purpose financials, what is right, what is wrong, user only can decide. Nobody else can decide. In this case, transparency and adherence to grant agreement are likely to be most important. Rather than NPO accounting standard, the most important attribute is grant agreement. So, should I follow financial statements preparation mostly as per the grant agreement or NPO accounting accounting standards body. Look, here you are preparing for government agency purpose. Their agreements, their terms and conditions are only important attributes. Consider that. That is what they have given here. Getting it? So that is what they have given. See, in the institute book, they will not give all these side headings. In my entire book, side headings are something which I am giving only. They are not giving. Getting it? Institute will only give direct para. First point, second point, third point. So points like we need to study and put a side heading to it. We did that. Okay. Next up. So, okay, fine. So these are the points I consider while accepting an audit of special purpose financials. This itself can be asked as a 4 marks question. What are the points the auditor has to consider while accepting an audit of special purpose financial statements, needs of the users, and whether applicable financial reporting framework may cover financial reporting standards established by or organization that is exclusively recognized to promote standards for special purpose. In India, there is no such authority that is there to promote standards for special purpose financial statements, accounting standards. Is there any accounting standard for special purpose financials? Do you know? No. Regulatory. The law or regulation may prescribe the financial reporting to be used for special purpose financials. First of all, how come a law decide a special purpose framework? Because what is a special purpose? What is your purpose? How lawmaker knows? So it is not possible for any standard setting organization or a lawmaker to define special purpose framework, because I prepare this as per his requirement. I want to go for funding. That investor, he is asking me to prepare balanced P&L in a certain approach he want. I will prepare his approach only. If I prepare as per standard setting body, he will not accept. I will not get funding. Yes or no? Special purpose financial statements are confidential. Understand? They are not public documents. But what they are saying is, consider, is there any standards on this, accounting standards? If is it possible for you to follow for preparing special purpose financials? Is there any regulatory requirement for special purpose? If so, check whether it is feasible or not to follow that. If at all it is conflicting with user requirements, ask user, discuss with management, and then decide accordingly. Yeah, that's what the entire discussion summary is like. Next. Now, finally, considerations when planning the audit. Remember, you have to comply with all standards that are relevant to audit. SA 800 is only an additional standard for special purpose financial statements. All the standards on auditing are equally applicable for special purpose financial statements audit. And auditor has to comply with each requirement of the SA. For example, SA 501 pending litigations, obtain representation, this it. That's a requirement of the SA. So you need to comply. Unless that requirement is not relevant. Suppose in the company, in this company, there are no pending litigations at all. So why should I obtain 501 pending litigation process? Why should I do? So in a very exceptional cases, the auditor may judge it necessary to deviate from requirements of the auditing procedure, where alternative procedure might be achieving. Suppose you want to get a confirmation, but third party is not responding. So you will obtain evidence through alternative procedure. So you just have to tell how alternative procedure is feasible. And auditor will apply judgments, materiality concept. In case of special purpose financials, management may agree with users on a threshold below which misstatements are identified as not corrected or adjusted, nothing but. In special purpose financials, sometimes user will decide materiality levels. User may say, sir, you adopted 1% of turnover for materiality rate. For me, 1% is okay. 5% I'm okay with. I'm okay with 5% deviation. Getting it? I'm not so conservative. I'm an aggressive guy. So 5% you can take for materiality purpose. If it is within 5%, don't report me. More than 5%, then report me. Getting it? Materiality can be decided by the user himself. Remember, in this point, whenever you're reading, if you get a confusion, remember user requirement is ultimate priority. In that context, you read, you will understand. Okay. And auditor also, of course, as per 260, you should decide with whom you have to communicate if you have any issues for special purpose financials. And when a complete set of general purpose financials are also prepared, those persons responsible for general purpose financials may be sometimes same, sometimes those who are responsible for special purpose financials, the responsible party might be different from the party who is responsible for general purpose financials. For general purpose financials, CFO might be responsible, but for special purpose financials, CEO is responsible because CEO is in talks with the investors. Getting the point? Finally, auditor have to apply SA 700 requirements and form the opinion. No, they said very cleverly revised SA 700 and all, but they didn't update it. They didn't update in the illustrations. Now, in the audit report, you have to describe clearly what is the financial reporting framework. Whether the financial statements are prepared in accordance with provisions of a contract, state that check whether the financial statements adequately describe interpretation of the contract. Like in the contract, some terms were there. As per that only you are preparing financials. You need to check whether in the financials on what basis they prepared. You see, even in general purpose financial statements, notes to accounts, first page, basis of preparation of financial statements only they present. For general purpose itself, we are presenting basis. Don't you think for special purpose too we present basis? Next. The auditor report shall describe the purpose for which financial statements are prepared and the intended users. In the report, we should mention. For your understanding, I'll show you the illustration. The illustration we will discuss. So independent auditors report, the heading is similar like general purpose financials. You need not mention independent auditors report on special purpose financials and all, because this is already a private document. Getting it? This is not something public document. We have audited the financial statements of ABC Limited balance sheet, which are prepared by management of ABC based on financial reporting provisions of contract. You see, they didn't say gap. Getting it? Management is responsible for preparation of these financials in accordance with so and so clause. Auditor responsibility is to express opinion on the financials based on our audit. We conduct our audit as per standards on auditing. Those standards requires all that. An audit involves so and so, all that, but not for expressing opinion on entities internal. Of course, this is point something we even mentioned in the general audit report. Opinion. The financial statements of this company are prepared in all material respects in accordance with contract. Here also we give 4 types of opinions: unqualified opinion, qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer. Same, just that applicable financial reporting framework is not general purpose but a special purpose. Same, all standards on auditing equally apply here. Basis of accounting. This is one additional reporting that we give in the audit report in case of special purpose financial statements related audit report. Look, this audit report is given on financial statements which are prepared using so and so accounting methods, so and so accounting policies, so and so accounting guidelines. Those guidelines, policies, methods are dictated under notes to account so and so note number. Please refer to that. We also mentioned that our report is purely for so and so user requirement and should not be distributed or should not be used by parties other than so and so. We don't recommend this report. If at all accidentally you are reading this report, don't think that this is for you. This is for so and so people only. This report is nowhere relevant for you. Getting the point? In fact, if at all, independent audit report for purpose of ABC Limited and DF, if at all in the heading itself they mention, that would be more accurate, right? You can do that. You have that flexibility. As long as you're not misleading, you can do that. So in the real audit report, I can do this. If at all I am there, I will do this within the bracket. I'll be more present. Will anybody object me? If I see what are the contents in audit report is a minimum content. I can give additional content also, provided that additional content do not undermine the remaining content. Getting it? Fine. So like this, we have illustrations for various things. Suppose no, here you see distribution. There is no restriction, but it's a special purpose financials. It is only useful for so and so party, not for anybody else. But company is not restricting on distribution. They are publishing on company website. Special purpose financials. So I know people will download and use it. So what should I do? I'll just mention that they are not suitable for another purpose. I just mentioned that they are not suitable for another purpose. Then, okay, that's it. Qualified opinion and all, they have not given illustration. Next. You see, you need to alert to the readers that the financial statements may be used only for the purpose other than those they were intended. Restriction on distribution or use of audit report. So the auditor may consider it appropriate to indicate that audit report is intended purely for specific use of. Depending upon the law, this may be achieved. This is not required. Depending upon law, iduve puriyadu. This itself is difficult. This is not required. Okay, this is not required. Restriction on distribution or use of audit report. You just have to mention that in the audit report. You have to clearly mention that this audit report is restricted solely for so and so party and not for any other purpose. Easy or not? Over 800 is also over. Now, you know, I'll have this advantage, you know, in a revision class. I can go in any order. But in regular class, first I will discuss 800, then 805, then 810. In revision, no, I have a natural assumption that you already come through. So I can come in a much more comfortable order. That's it.